What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today is part 3 of the series where we're making a trap beat from scratch, going through every single step of the process. So in the last video we went ahead and put the different effects on our melodies and stuff like that. So if you didn't watch that one, I'm going to put a link to it right now at the top of the video. Go ahead and check that out and you can see how we got to this point. So in this video we're going to be focusing on 808s and kicks and how to make them sync really well together with your melodies and the rest of your track. So let's jump right into this. Alright guys, so the sounds that we're going to be using in this video are going to be from my new drum kit, and there's a link for that in the description below if you want to check it out. You're going to get a bunch of bonuses as well. It's not just a drum kit. So we're going to be using the kick and 808, and we're probably going to put a snare in here to just have a little beat catcher for us. Okay, so from the previous video we used C# minor, so that's what we're going to go ahead and pick out for our 808. Alright, we'll just use the Holy Grail snare just for... Let's turn this down to like 95. Let's see how that works. We're going to treat this as if it was like 190 BPM. So we're going to put the snare every other like this. And for the 808, we're going to start off with the 6/7 808 just because it's one of my favorites. And then we'll build it from there. Okay, so when I'm trying to figure out what notes are going to work best in the scale, trying to find like the root notes, what I do is I'll actually go up a couple octaves. Maybe we'll go to like C5 or something like that. And we're going to play around with the notes until we find which notes work best for certain sections in the song. Alright, now we can put them back down. We'll play with the octaves a little bit, see if anything needs to be changed up with these notes, and then we'll get our groove going as well. But you can see here I just copied and pasted the notes over and just found where the root notes are going to be, and now we're going to dial in what the actual pattern's going to be. Alright, I'm thinking of putting a couple little quick notes right here before it goes in, but let's see if this is going to sound okay. Okay, so once you have a cool little 4-bar progression down, you found the root notes, everything is sounding like it's on beat, or everything is sounding like it's on the right notes. We can make this 8 bars and just change things up slightly just to give it more variation. Okay, so I didn't really change up any of the notes, but what I did do is I took this and I brought it down an octave instead of it being up an octave. And the A is at a perfect spot to where it's like just low enough to where it still sounds decent, but it doesn't sound like garbage. G sounds pretty good too, but once you start getting to the Fs and below that, it starts to become a little trashy. Let's try putting this one up, see if that sounds cool. awesome. That sounds really cool. So that little thing right there actually made it sound better. Sometimes it does, sometimes it won't work well, but so you can throw in little variations like that. And as you can see, the only thing I really changed in this next 8 bars here is literally the octaves. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make the kick pattern, and then we're gonna go over some mixing and different things like that to get them to sit really well together. So one thing you could do is you could just drag your 808 MIDI right over and, you know, put these all down to C3. You could also play with the note that the kick is on, maybe make it a little lower or less depending on what it is. But let's go in and pick out the kick sample really quick that we're gonna use. Go with the Toxic Wasteland. Let's try out the 1000-volt kick here and see how this one's going. I think A sounds really good there, so don't feel like you need to always leave it on C. It can work better, especially if you keep it in the scale, so you know, keep it in the right scale. But if you put it on one of the lower notes, sometimes it can sit a little better with that 808. So depending on the beat, sometimes you might have the 808 louder than the kick, sometimes you might not even have a kick, or sometimes you might have the kick higher than the 808, but they're not going to be too much different. In my case, what I like to do is I usually leave the kick a little punchier than the 808. So I'll leave it a little bit higher than the 808 level. And so we'll get the levels about right now, but obviously we'll be adjusting them as we do different things. But let's check this out. Okay, so you'll notice that this says 0.32, so technically it is hitting louder, but that's just the initial kick of the 808. But so what I'm looking at is the steady level. So it seems like the steady level is like almost right where the arrow's at, so we're keeping it around -6. So let's talk about some of the things I'm doing already that we haven't discussed. So I also have a return track right here, and I'm sending the kick and the 808 to this return track. And what I'm doing with the return track is I have the classic clipper on it. So it's just a soft clipper. Let's say you wanted to use the glue compressor, you'd literally just turn this soft clipper on right here, and then you're getting Ableton stock soft clipper. So don't think you need to have this plugin. The glue compressor or the saturator will work completely fine. Here's a soft clip option on the saturator. So I'm putting that on the return track, and I'm sending the kick and 808 to it. So my kick and 808 are going to the master, and they're also going to this 808 channel. And what this is doing is it's allowing us to get that distorted kick and 808 grit noise without having to make our kick and 808 channel go over 0 dB. On my kick, what I have right now is I have nothing going on with this yet with my EQ, but I do have a clipper right on my kick. I put it right on the kick channel, and then depending on if you solo the kick, depending on how much you push into the clipper, so how loud the kick is before it goes into clipper determines like everything, like the sound you get out of it. So I have the clipper right here, so if I crank this all the way up, yeah, it's louder, but you can see that the clipper destroys it, so you need to get the level right. So that feels right to me, about a -11. I didn't even really need to change it, but you just want to make sure that it's not too loud before it's going into the clipper, because then the clipper is going to squish it into packed meat. All right, so one other thing we're going to do with the kick really quick here is we're going to try to get rid of some of the boxiness. So I'm just going to scan the area really quick for something. And the nice thing about Pro Q3 is it has this little option which allows you to hear just the head or just the signal that you're raising, and you can also do that in Ableton too. Just click on the little blue headphone thing in Ableton. So the boxy tones can be from anywhere from like 450 to 600, so you're just gonna have to scoop around and figure out where it's at for you. We'll make this cue a little bit bigger so we can hear it better. That sounds like it to me. So 520 for me sounds like it. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, and then we'll take it out just a little bit here. Not taking out a crazy amount, just like almost -2 here. So without it and with it. Tightens it up a lot. So the only other thing I might do with this EQ is I might like take out some of the highs if the kick has too much highs in it, but I don't think we need to in this case. I like how it sounds. And then if you need a little more thump, you could boost something. And technically, if you take something out with an EQ, you should add some somewhere. So we could add a little bit something since we're doing that. Let's check it out. Actually, let's add it with a different plugin. So I'm going to use this floating band dynamic EQ. I think we're going to use a mono. Let's see. And I'm going to put this after the EQ. So I'm going to use this to do the boosting. So I'm going to solo this band now, and then I'm going to figure out where the first like kicky part of the sub is, usually around 100. So that sounds good to me. And I'm going to take this next one, I'm going to find the second spot, which is usually double that number, but we'll do it just for sakes here so you can hear what it would sound like with your ears as well. Okay. So this is the difference. Let's put the kick and 808 together again and see how they're sounding now. So what I'm going to do really quick before we start messing with the 808 is I'm going to see how much gain we actually have from this. And then we're going to take it back down. So let's see what it sounded like. And we'll take the classic clipper off so we can hear what it's truly at. So 1.21. And this takes it up a whole nother, it takes up like a whole nother 0.7. So let's actually subtract that. All right, that sounds better. All right, so now let's get the 808 in there. Okay, so for the 808, I always have the tuner on just to make sure it's always in tune, but that doesn't do anything else. So what I do is I do some sidechain with my kick and 808 by finding like the root frequency in here. So like where's it hitting the highest? So usually right around here, 57. What I'll do with my 808 is I'll sidechain the EQ at 57. So I'll take this over to like 57 or so. Make this a little bit smaller. Whoops. We'll take this down to maybe like -5, -6. Tighten up the band EQ. And then to get this, if you don't have it already, I'll show you really quickly. You just make a new point. Okay. And then you pull it on the outside here in the red zone. So you pull this down. You can click on this auto button right here. And you click on this external sidechain option right here. Once that's highlighted, you see it's orange like that. Then it's going to start sidechaining from any input that you give it. So all you have to do to get that to work is you have to go to your kick right here and you have to say audio to 808 and it should fill in the stereo sidechain if you did those steps correctly. And that's all you have to do if you have that EQ. And that's pretty much all I do for the 808. Unless it needs some extra distortion, I'll throw on a distortion rack. So actually let's check it out because I did include my distortion rack in the new drum kit as well as a little bonus. So for the distortion rack to work, you're gonna have to have a decapitator. That's one thing there. And what we're gonna do is put the 808 distortion before the EQ, so that way the kick is also ducking any distortion. So order does matter. And this is like my favorite style of distortion, so all you really need to do is turn this up or down, the wet knob. So without it, and with it. So you can see that we're pretty good because it's, you know, not too much in the low end, but we'll just take out a little bit more. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. This is gonna wrap up this one, so this is part 3. In the next one, we're gonna start going through like hi-hats and different percussions and things like that. If you want to get the sounds that I was using in here, my new drum kit is linked in the description below, so you can grab that there and check it out. And you got a lot of different bonuses, like you get the theme that you see here, you get a bunch of different scale midis, and you get the 808 distortion rack that we just used. As long as you have Decapitator, it'll work for you. But besides that, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because we're uploading daily tutorials that you're not gonna wanna miss out on. Anyways guys, I'll be catching you again in the next one. Peace out.